welcome Dianna to Conversations with NESVANMAR. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
For having me. I'm doing well and just really taking it one day at a time like everybody else.
I know, right? So Dianna and I decided that since we're talking about sustainability and everything related to health and wellness and sustaining yourself, that we'll come outside to the great outdoors.
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful outside today in Queens, New York. And what a way to start off a conversation about sustainability. So, Dianna, this is all about you informing us about sustainability. What is sustainability? Oh, wait, before I even start off, we have to talk about the phenomenal woman that we're talking to today. Dianna is the founder of Jars of Delight, a delicious concoction of everything healthy and also her sustainable life. So, Dianna, can you talk us through a little bit about sustainability and why it's really important during this time?
Thank you. Thank you again for having me on. Sustainability right now, as you know, is really one of the trending words or topics that you might hear going forward. And simply, it's just the ability to maintain at a certain rate or level. So when you think about sustainability, most people think of it on the environmental side, with our any type of energy that we're using, we want to be able to use it, but also sustain it. So in its basic form, it's just being able to sustain or maintain anything at a certain rate without depleting it. So that's just basic, right? So we get into different levels of sustainability and different tenets of sustainability. But for us, right now, it's so important that we understand what sustainability is and how we can all partake and participate. As you can see, we're all home. A lot of us are mandated to be home, and even though sustainability in itself really considers the whole of anything. I'm sorry, that's my 3-year-old. As we are sustaining this,
Our lives right now.
this is real life. So sustainability really looks at the whole. It's really never about the parts of a thing. It's really about the whole of it, because individually each part, even though it may play a role, really contributes to the whole of an organization or system, planet. So as we are all home, it's important that each and every person in the home right now, it's doing their part to really sustain the integrity of the home, the mental ability of the home, and even the finances of the home, because we know that that's a real topic right now. So
Yeah, so while you're talking, I'm thinking about math in background, part and whole. And from what I'm gathering from you, it's if we're doing a little bit, it contributes to an entire piece,
yeah,
right?
absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
awesome. So, Dianna, before I even met you a couple of years ago, I knew of you, and I only knew of you because of your Jars of Delight. One day, my husband came home with this beautiful mason jar filled with delicious salads. I think it had like jerk chicken or some sort of like mango chicken. And it was just beautifully made, right? With all of these sustainable things like reusing your jar. I loved how, the utensils
Or bamboo.
were, yeah, they were like bamboo or wood or something. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, and most importantly, it tastes delicious.
Thank you.
And then a few years like forward, I meet you and I'm like, wait a second, Jars of
Yeah,
Light. And it was so good
yeah.
to like meet you and actually put a face together with the brand. So I love Jars of Delight. Can you talk a little bit about that company and just what it means in general?
Absolutely. And it's such a funny story because Clyde, your husband, was actually the first person to ever see Jars of Delight. When we decided to go forward, I was meal prepping for a friend, and he was or is a professional fighter. And then he posted it, I posted it, and people started to ask, oh, where can I get this? But it wasn't anything. I was just doing it as a favor because he was preparing for a big fight. And when people started asking, hey, I want to order it, and I'm like, okay, so maybe about 4 weeks into it, we had maybe about 15, repeat customers who wanted meal prep service. And then I said, this might be something. So I called Clyde and I said, hey, can I come by your office? I think I got something. And so it's funny because he was actually the first person, outside of the people who were ordering who actually knew what it was. So I brought him a jar, and him being like the great husband that he is, brought the jar home to you. So kudos to you.
Of course, of course. That's how it should always be. But many times he ends up eating it before he even gets it.
But the idea is really, it stems from my background. I majored in community health and sustainability in college, and I remember that was about 11 years ago. And at the time, sustainability, zero waste, these concepts, it wasn't mainstream. There were definitely people doing the work in the environmental sector, but it wasn't. You didn't think of sustainability and entrepreneurism necessarily. So doing anything in food, of course, my background and my passion for sustainability had to be incorporated. So I said, okay, when I decided like this, we're going to turn this into a real company. The first and most important thing was really education, why we're doing it to our customers, and also sourcing. So we source from local farmers markets, local farms and farmers markets in Jamaica, Queens. You have Gotham Greens, which is a urban farm right there on Jamaica Avenue. So sourcing the food for the product was definitely important because it comes out in the taste. When you really go and do those extra miles and really source locally, not only are you helping local businesses, but you're also providing the best quality of food. And I think that's what comes across when people taste it. At this point, we've catered for over 5,000 people. So we're almost 3 years old. So, but it's always the same reaction. They're like, "Oh, this is cute," but when they taste like, "Oh, this is great," it's because we put the love and in the product, and that comes from sourcing locally and using organic products. And the mason jar, as is recyclable. So we encourage, when we have contracts, we encourage that we can recycle the mason jars by getting them all back. But if people choose to, which they do, want their mason jar, we just ask that you can upcycle it and just post a picture or share it on social media how you're using your jar. And we use all bamboo cutlery and utensils for all of our catering events, all of our meal prep services. So it's really important that we educate our customers on why we're using all the sustainable measures that we're doing.
Okay. And do you think that using these sustainable materials have given you an upper edge when working on contracts or just even that appeal to work with different groups?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Our first our first contract, catering contract, because at that point we were just doing meal prep services for families. Our first catering contract was 350 people, and we were only 6 months old. And it was because I wanted to table, I wanted to vend at this event, the Women of Business Entrepreneurs in the city, and they were having their annual summit. And I called to vend and just showcase. And she loved the pitch and the product so much. She's like, "Why don't you cater for us? Be our lunch caterer." So of
Mhm.
course, you're like, absolutely. And then she calls back. She's like, "Oh, by the way, it's 350 people." What? So that was our, going in for our first major event. That was so helpful because one, it taught me how to pitch. Two, it showed that there was proof of concept in the fact that we can cater out of mason jars because they're 32 ounces. It's a whole meal, and also it gave us our first platform to really connect with other businesses. And when they saw it at the event, it was just a ripple effect. I spent no money for the first year on promotion or advertisement because all of our contracts are word of mouth because either they've tasted the jar, they've seen it in a photo, and they've like, this is a cool dynamic, or this is something different, we want this at our event. So yeah, absolutely, it's really given us an upper hand. And then we hit them with the sustainability message, and they feel good about participating, whether they personally are invested in sustainability, but knowing that their company can brand themselves as of having a sustainable event is always great.
Feeling good about the foods that you're eating or that you're contributing to a company that's a do-gooder is always a great thing. Always a great thing. I always want to spend my money with a company that I feel that somehow or another it either contributes back to the environment or to people in need. So kudos to you for doing that. So, just living abroad and spending a lot of time traveling, sustainability really isn't such a new concept.
Uh,
It's the actual practice in many different countries, but now we are sort of on trend
right.
about this in the United States. Can you talk a little bit about the history of sustainability and particularly any women that have pioneered this field?
Absolutely. And that's so funny. You know, when I think about the first women who have really showed me anything about sustainability or pioneered it in my mind, I think of my own family. You know, coming from the island, coming from Jamaica, sustainability, even though it wasn't called that, we practiced that all the time. You know, going back from my grandmother, when she would peel oranges, she would save the rind and make tea.
Hmm.
You know, any food scraps that we had was turned into compost. You know, even how we fed our animals, you know, our chickens and goats and pigs, it was all done in a humane, sustainable manner. So you're right, you know, what they would consider other countries or even third world countries, if that's still a thing, you know, people all over, sustainability is really an indigenous practice. So it's always amusing when I see people say, "Oh, so this is sustainability," but no, that's mainstream sustainability. That's the trend when you think about colors and patterns and textiles and what it looks like. So what it looks like right now, and what the actual practice is really two completely different things. And even when I was going for my major, I was pre med. I was pre med for 2 years, and then I took a class in sustainability, and I was like, "Oh my god, I need to do this." And at the time, people thought I was crazy. They're like, "Well, where are you gonna work? What are you gonna do?" And well, my options at that time was either the CDC, the NIH, OSHA, one of those major corporations, and no one really thought of it as a business or as a practice. But I'm like, we practice sustainability all the time, where I'm from. So it's funny when I speak to my grandmother, my mom, and I'm like, oh, I'm talking about this. They laugh at me sometimes because they're like, we've been doing that for the ages. But sustainability goes back to, I would even dare say, the Bible. Sometimes I look at certain scriptures and I get so excited because I'm like, oh, that's sustainability. That's the practice. That's what we're doing. So it's not new. Um, the capitalizing and the entrepreneur side of it may be a new concept or maybe something new. Hosting panels about it and talking about it in this fashion is new, but it's not new. There's no new thing under the sun technically.
It's not new at all. It's reinvented, and there's nothing wrong with reinventment, especially if it's done by an amazing person like yourself.
Thank you. Just trying. We're all trying to do our part.
We're all trying to do our part. So I love when, people's backgrounds come into play during times of need. And as you said, you went to college to major in pre-med, but then you learned about sustainability. And although you may not have worked in these organizations, probably based out of DC or and all, now we're here and we have
Yeah.
COVID, which is really unfortunate, but your degree comes into play at this time. So, can you share with us any helpful tips or just like your thought process around sustainability and COVID? What can we
Right.
do during this time?
There's so much that we can do. But what I just got off of another Zoom conference maybe an hour ago, and one of the things that I just admonished everyone is to start where you are. Just start reading, like you said, start reading about different pioneers of the sustainable movement, and just really educate yourself on what real sustainability is and not what mainstream is trying to sell us. A lot of another thing, since we're all home, this is a good opportunity to really take stock of what we have at home. It really starts from there because once you know what you have, you know what you need.
Mhm.
And it's something simple as going into your pantry and saying, okay, I have X amount of cans of tomato sauce, or I have X amount of cans of beans. And then you can really start to say, okay, you can start to manage your kitchen and say, okay, I can make this today, I need that. Or if I'm running to the store, you're not buying anything in excess, you're not buying anything that you don't need or that might go to waste. So just tackling waste right now in your own home is really a great way to practice sustainability. Something that you and I spoke about that I laugh at now every single time I do it is really limiting the amount of serviceware that we use in our house,
Mhm.
because that really cuts down on, water, because you're not washing as many dishes as you normally would. And it makes you, it really creates a sort of mindfulness of, okay, do I really need that right now? Do I need to eat that right now? Do I need to drink that right now? It really, you develop a sense of mindfulness about being home, and what you're wasting and what you're using. And then even when I make plates for my kids, something simple as just making sure I portion out their food. If they're hungry, of course they get more, but there's really nothing going to waste right now. So it's just those little tenants, and those just those little things that if we do it on a regular basis, it just becomes habit. And then you move on to the bigger things, like, okay, then you start to research where you are purchasing your food. Is it local? Are you purchasing local? It's a little hard right now because, a lot of the farms and everybody's being affected by COVID and then this crisis right now. But just learning where your food comes from and education, those are really some just simple things that we can all do right now to really promote this message of sustainability, being at home right now during 2020 COVID.
So they say that you create a habit within 21 days. So we've been in the house for quite some time.
Yeah,
I am truly hoping that and I'm just talking for myself right now, that after more than 21 days, because I've lost track so far,
me too.
that I would have created a habit. Like right now, my hair is flying all over the place. Guess what? I'm washing my own hair. I'm doing my own hair. I'm doing my own makeup. True
Yes.
story, over the weekend, I mean, I had a come to Jesus moment with my closet. It's just extra,
Yeah,
extra
you and my best friend.
wasteful. I mean, my first love is fashion. So I love designers. I love what they're doing. I love following them. And I also like to purchase a lot too. And I just felt that, why do I have so many things and why do I need so much? And I really have scaled back tremendously. And over the weekend, just taking ownership of just living in too much of an excess. So I'm really happy to be able to get rid of as many things, donate it, sell it, upcycle, whatever we need to do to contribute to just a better, a better community. So I think Diana, we lost you for a little bit, but you're back.
Yes, I'm not sure what just happened. Technology at its best.
Technology at its best. Listen, I
I
was
know I'm a little dark, so I'm okay.
earlier in Geneva, and we had every issue you could possibly think of. So, no
What happened?
worries. I'm going to
Sorry,
leave
ran
all of this in
in
the
the
dust
house.
because this is our life right now in technology. It's going to be interrupted, and we're going to have like little hicks in the road, but we will prevail and carry on. So, let's carry on with the interview. While you're off, I was just saying how this weekend I had to take ownership of the excess that I have and so much in my closet and really start getting some bins and figuring out what to do, whether I'm going to donate it, I'm going to sell some things. I just want to get rid of a lot of things, and especially just being at home for such a long time now. I feel like your value system is reassessed. And for me, I just know that I don't need all of those things. Yes, I may like some fancy things here and there, but to have multiple of each item is just absolutely not necessary. So that's my own true story of trying to sustain my life and apply those concepts a little bit more.
Right, and right now they have a lot of like thread up and different organizations because of no contact and because of social distancing. They really do have a lot of great companies right now that are assisting in that area. Well, if you do, because everyone's home, everyone's assessing their closets and what they need and what they don't, and it's still spring cleaning. So they do have a lot of companies that are willing to pick up your donated goods, if you want to either sell them or donate them. So that's definitely something that, you can look into.
Great to know. I have plenty of things that they have a better experience than me. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about just COVID. We're currently in a crisis, and so many people like ourselves who are entrepreneurs, small businesses, are deeply affected. Can you just go through that experience right now with Jars of Delight and her sustainable life? And if possible, are there any positive things coming out of that? Are you pivoting in any way that may be a silver lining in all of this?
Oh, absolutely. So, we're all affected in some, I was speaking to someone and I said, I've never been in a situation where one incident has affected every single person that I know. We've never seen anything like that in our lifetime. So, of course, Jars of Delight, with 90% of our revenue being contract catering events, all of our catering contracts were canceled. And it was just an email after email of I'm sorry, we're sorry. And the week that we were put in the mandated quarantine, we were supposed to cater for Google. So, as you can imagine, it's been absolutely just devastating and eye-opening financially for a lot of companies. But on the flip side of that, it does give us the opportunity to learn how to pivot in times of crisis. So we've been able to really focus on the meal prep service of our company and provide services that way. And then also through RFPs, because we are a MWBE, Minority Women Business Enterprise, we're able to really, apply for RFPs that the city, state, and federal government have put out to provide delicious, healthy food for essential workers, so that has been a blessing. Whereas these contracts, yeah, they were there before, but now we're really able to say, hey, we're ready and we're able, and this is our track record, this is what we've done, and we're MWBE certified. So in a sense, it's opened up an avenue or an opportunity for us to really apply for these contracts full force.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to hear that there are small businesses that are still getting contracts during this time. So that's really good to hear. Have you or anyone that you know of have dealt with or have, applied for any of the loan assistance programs that the city and the state and now federally through the SBA? Have they
Absolutely.
any of that?
So we did apply for an SBA loan. They said to give it about a week to get an answer or apply. And I know they have paycheck assistance loans. So we have personally applied, and it's been great because the community that I'm a part of, I've been getting emails about different opportunities, like even GoFundMe. They put out a campaign where through the Small Business Relief Fund, I put out a campaign and they're going to match it. So there's been a lot of different opportunities, and anytime someone sees an opportunity, especially as a woman business owner, especially as a food service, I've been getting emails all the time regarding opportunities and loans and grants that are available. So it's just a matter of really just being tenacious about applying for them, because the money is out there. We just have to be tenacious about applying.
Exactly. Being tenacious about applying and making sure that we're meeting the deadlines. The
Yes, meeting the
deadline.
deadline. Yeah, absolutely. And then this also gives us an opportunity to really go through anywhere in our business plan that needs refreshing, that needs updating, that needs to say, okay, just to make sure you are qualified. Because that's another thing. Even though they are giving out these grants and these loans, there's still basic qualifications that you have to meet. So a lot of the times, we say, oh, we'll put that off and we'll get that done later. But a lot of the requirements that they're asking for, you need to have, so in order to qualify for these loans. So that's important too.
Yes, being prepared is tremendously important, especially during a crisis. Having a business continuity plan is extremely important. I've heard so many small businesses get on the phone and they're like, well, I need this loan and I need that. And it's like, well, did you do some of the things that you needed to do? So, even for myself right now during this downtime, and I'm calling it my downtime, to just work on myself and my business. Those are things that I'm putting in place, making sure that the financial piece is taken care of, making sure the marketing's taken care of, just like making myself better so that, eventually COVID will go away or lessen to a certain extent. And, for me, I want to come out strong as I
Yes.
possibly can. strong for myself, for my families, for my neighbors, community, but also very strong for my business too. So
Absolutely.
thanks for mentioning that. Okay, so before we end this conversation, any tips, especially for the women entrepreneurs out there, that you'd love to share? Any platforms that you're using or business tools that are noteworthy?
Absolutely. So for me, just being in New York, the epicenter of business and opportunity, there are so many, especially as a small business, as a minority business, as a woman business owner, there's so many different opportunities that I'm using. And then being based in Queens, that's also been great. So we've been partnering with Made in NYC, Made in Queens, that Small Business Administration, the SBA, the Queens Economic Development Corporation. We make sure that we're on their list. So anything comes out, we're able to apply for or participate in. So we did do the 2020 startup competition for Queens, and we were chosen as one of the finalists. Even in the midst of all of this going on, we just got the notification last week. So we went on a Zoom call, and we were one of the finalists. So I entered Jars of Delight as there's 4 different areas. So there's community, there's food, there's innovation, and there's also the new category that they added this year, sustainability. So of course we applied under sustainability, and we're one of the finalists. So we just have to do our final pitch in the coming month, and that's a grant for $10,000. So there's thank you. We're so excited about that. Even in the midst of all of this, there's still some good news happening. So that's from the Queens Economic Development Corporation. And, there's just a wealth of opportunities and just organizations that assist small businesses really help. And even your banks, whatever you're banking with, like I bank with Chase Small Business, they have a great platform to help small businesses. So it's really about, like, going back to being tenacious about wanting to get the information and applying for these opportunities and just submitting what they request. So, and then also, if you follow me at Her Sustainable Life, we're doing 30 days to a more sustainable home. And it's every day I'm just giving you one tip that you can do to really help build a more sustainable home. And it's been great because I'm now partnering with some amazing brands, and we're giving away a lot of good stuff, a lot of like natural home cleaning products, a lot of solar, some tech stuff. So it's really cool. So just follow us for the next 30 days at Her Sustainable Life. And then, you can find out and participate in the conversation.
Yeah, so Dianna, you brought up a really good point, and from a lot of Zoom meetings, I've been hearing this. It's really important as a small business, as an entrepreneur, startup, whatever you want to call yourself or classify yourself, to always be in the know and stay on those contact lists, whether that's with your local elected official, your local business chambers of commerce, your local development corp. If you're not in the know, or as they would say during Hamilton, if you're not in the room, like,
Right.
you're going to miss out on stuff. So being informed and staying abreast of the developments, especially in a situation like COVID, that's how you're going to keep informed, and you're going to know what opportunities there are out there. So
Oh, absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us today with Conversations with NESVANMAR. You mentioned this briefly, but just remind everyone where you can be found on social media.
Oh, absolutely. So you can follow us at Jars of Delight. That's on all social media platforms, and also at www.jarsofdelight.com. You can look at our menu. You can look at all the new things that we have rolling out for the spring and summer for our menu and our services. And then you can also follow me at Her Sustainable Life on Instagram. That's where I just talk about all things sustainability. So my handle is sustainability and faith, finance, food, and the future. So if you definitely want to check me out there, and let's connect and let's build, more sustainable home for April.
Thank you, Dianna Rose, for joining us today. And I am sure everyone will enjoy this video and take some tidbits away from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. And your hair looks flawless, so don't worry about it.